what people don't realize is, in a country like Germany, if they catch you with the ECollar, you can go in jail. The maximum penalty is 5 years. If you kill a person, the minimum or the maximum is 7 years. Are we laughing?
Bart, Michael, good to have you on the podcast.
Hello.
This has been a long time coming. And we're ready to go. We don't need to wait for anybody to tune in. We're ready to start chatting. We can be brutal.
Good.
Okay. Do you have your notes? You're ready to talk?
Yeah, but notes, sometimes we take notes, but that's to not forget, which is new, because in the old days I never took notes.
Yeah.
We are well prepared over the years.
But he's more organized now.
With age comes organization.
Yeah.
Well, people always say that how do you guys do by not having paperwork and stuff like that in front of you? It's there, huh? I mean,
for me, people always say, "What questions are you going to ask me in the podcast?" And I have zero notes. I know you and I, Bart, we've been friends, Michael, for I would say 10, 12 years. We've known each other.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had Bart. You and I have had so many chats. Just you pick up the phone and we just start talking, and it's an hour later, and it's just a friendly conversation. Always, I always enjoy our conversations. So this is why I wanted to do this podcast, because I want to share a little bit of what like-minded dog trainers and dog lovers will talk about, right? Because we care about dogs, but we're not this fanatic side who is destroying dogs and dog training. And I think that's an important piece that we can really talk about that, can be a nice conversation.
Can I interfere very fast there?
Sure.
And now I speak for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I like to train dogs, but I'm not a real dog lover. Strange.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay. I always thought you were. Okay. All right.
No. By lover, I mean, I do training without emotions, totally.
I agree.
Because I think that if you love your animal too much, and you must implement necessary consequences for not doing whatever the system you are in, you don't imply the consequences too well. And I did see a lot of people loving their dogs too much, and by loving their dog too much, the dog is overweighted, the dog is not in a good physical condition, the dog is overhumanized. You see what I mean? I don't think that, and that's the danger from too much love.
But if it's a dysfunctional love, right? I mean, you can.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I think we have to. It's like we always talk about animal rights and animal welfare.
Yes.
And there's an important distinction. Like, I truly love dogs. That's why I do what I do, because I love them. But the old thing in the Bible: spare the rod, spoil the child. I am not afraid to give consequences, corrections to my dogs. I have no emotion when I'm training. There is no emotion. It's A, it's B, it's C. And this is one of the things I like about your training, your philosophy, your overall mindset. It is a true love because you are, in essence, looking for the best for the dog, not necessarily the easiest path for the person, right?
Yes.
The best outcome.
The best outcome. We like, what we like is what we call controlled freedom. We like what we call dog ownership with responsibility. That means we have no problem to cut a dog loose, but you must be able to recall that dog.
Right. A lot of dog lovers are not responsible dog owners.
Yeah.
And I remember 15 years ago, Michael and I, we do live in Antwerp, close to a very nice green environment.
Okay.
Where everybody that has a dog that does not listen, come and let the dog roam around.
Yeah.
And Michael and I, we have dogs that do listen. And I remember in the old days, I had my vicious dog Zot that was listening very well. And I saw those dogs. And I saw those dogs coming that don't listen. I called back Zot immediately. I downed him. And then I gently wave to people and say, "Hey, your dog is out of control here." I mean, they're nice. I say, "No, they are not nice. They are
Yes.
growling. The fur is up. This is not a nice
Right.
communication."
Yeah.
Say, please control your dog. And of course, they
They
don't listen
can't.
because they cannot.
Yeah, they can't control
And
it.
then
Yeah.
I had a secret command, and I let him fight for 2 seconds, and then I recalled him immediately. There was a screaming going on you cannot believe. My dog immediately came back. People were cured from that moment. So as soon
Yeah.
as they saw me coming, the dogs were unleashed. I'm sick and tired of doing
Right.
that. But,
Yeah.
well, imagine that I'm afraid of a dog.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
imagine that I run away from the dog, and a big dog, even a nice dog that just
Might
want to
get.
play with me,
Yeah.
tackles me gently.
Yeah.
It happened the
Yeah.
same. I run in the days that was doing my physical conditioning. I was running around the fort, and of course there was a big Irish setter yapping and the teeth close to my legs. I
It's okay.
was running around the fort
Yep.
in physical condition, and then there was an Irish setter that was yapping and trying to bite my legs, and I stop and I look behind me, and there is a lady, and I say, "Hey, you must hold your dog under control because this is not a nice dog." "Yeah, he loves people." I say, "No, he does not love." And I continue running, and again the dog in my legs. I stop again and say, "You must go back your dog, or you put him on a leash." "No, I like freedom." I say, "Okay." And I continue my running, and the dog is yapping again. I grab the dog and I jump with the dog in the water in the winter. I never forget. Just hold him 1 second on the water and then let him go. I never had problems again. But
Right.
why must I do that? Why
Right.
Yeah.
don't people see that they have an out of control dog that should be in responsible dog ownership? Because
Yeah.
the big problem is created by those dog lovers. They are
Yes.
so blind in
Yes.
their
Yes.
love,
That's a fantastic point. Just
and,
right
and,
Yes.
there.
and they don't have respect for nobody.
Yes.
That dog that is out of control can kill rabbits, can kill hare. They don't
They,
care.
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
They
But
can
you said
fight
this.
with another dog.
No,
They
I
don't
was just going to
care.
say that. Yeah, they attack other dogs. Oh, I thought my dog was
Yeah.
friendly. They can't.
They
If you
kill.
can't control your dog, keep him on a leash. If you love your dog, because somebody's going
Yes.
to kill your dog. He's going to get shot. And these are
Yes.
things that people don't look at. So I think that's critical. I mean, and again, like what you said in the beginning of the chat, these dogs are overweight. Look at how many children are grossly overweight because parents love them and they keep feeding them. But that's not love,
It's a
right?
drama.
It's drama.
It's a
Yeah.
drama.
It's
It's a
Yes,
complete.
it
drama.
is a drama. You're 100% right.
Robert, another
Yeah,
anecdote. Then I stop.
please.
Because he
Oh,
can go on. We both can go on for days.
There was again a
And I'm
person.
sure you too.
There was
yeah,
again a
me too.
person
Yeah,
15 years ago, and I did calm down a lot. And
yeah,
15
Yes.
years ago, and always that dog was roaming around
Oh yeah.
in the woods close to where we live, and nobody to see. And then, of course, a little bit later, I see the person. I say, "Ma'am," in this case was a lady, "you
yeah.
should have your dog under control because this is a wood where people come with dogs, children." "No, it's free." I said, "Okay." And then one day I saw that dog again, and I saw no owner, and I took the dog and I did bring the dog to our place in our kennels.
Hmm.
Very well treated, water, food, everything.
Yeah.
And then 3 hours later, I hear the lady screaming for a dog, "Looky, looky." And then she came ring to my place and she said, "Sir, did you see a dog?" And there I did lie. I said, "Yeah, I saw somebody stopping. They saw a dog wild. Then I think they went to the police or to the SPCA. I don't know what."
Hmm.
The lady in a panic you cannot believe. And of course, I did bring that dog to the place it had to be. But
Sure.
from that day, that person was cured.
Yeah.
But why must we do things like that?
But
So,
it's sad.
yes, it's sad.
And it's not good for the dogs either.
Well,
And
that's
then
the
those
point.
dogs
Yeah.
and then those dogs come later in the hands of a person that must train them because the
Yeah.
owner never did train them on purpose because they
Yeah.
want a free dog.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that freedom has a price and that price is control.
Yes.
There is no other way.
Well, I mean, that is kind of the perfect place I want to go because the one thing you and I have talked about so much and I admire about you is, in my opinion, you're the most knowledgeable person on the ECollar, right? We've talked about this for we've had these conversations over and over for 12 years about how it works, why it works. And you have created the best e-collar, but not, you're off to the side again. Your collar, I think, is fantastic. The Martin Systems is your company now, but the Chameleon, the Micro B, your technology and ideas like this are very futuristic, and we want to get into that. But what I want to start with is the idea of where the e-collar started and why it's such a powerful tool, why it is a tool that if you love dogs, if you really love them, if you care about them, and then let's equate love not being as much emotional about, but being more caring. I want to do what's best for the person or the animal that I love.
Responsible.
Responsible is a great word, Michael. Yeah. Because people say, oh, if you put an e-collar on your dog and you fry him, you don't love him. And I agree with that. If you fry your dog for no reason on an e-collar, you don't love him. You're stupid. But you also don't love him if you put him on a harness and let him pull you around. So let's talk about, one, the evolution of the e-collar, because I've seen you on a few podcasts, and this is something I think no one's ever tapped into your mind from this level, because you're an engineer, you're a dog trainer, you're an incredibly smart man. But I want to talk about those pieces that make you click.
Well, let's say that historically, first of all, I'm not an engineer. I'm a sport teacher.
I know that. But you're an engineer, like you think with electronics, right?
Okay.
You and I think like that.
Michael and I work with smart engineers that can realize what we dream about. Mm-hmm. Now, historically, I think that around the same timing in USA and in Europe, both different countries, but continents is a better word.
Sure.
In the 1960, in Europe, there was a veterinarian in Germany, a Dr. Checker, and he was sick and tired to do surgery during hunting seasons on dogs that were disobedient, and for that reason did receive what they call the pigeon shot in the ass. Mm-hmm. So that was the brutal way of stopping them, and it worked well. Mm-hmm. But it had consequences. The doctor had to do surgery. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, there must be a better way, and he invented that big checker collar that on two sides, quite heavy. And when you pushed the transmitter, 3 seconds later, the dog received a very high output. And of course, it was meant for dogs with high drive that knew the command to stop. Okay. That was in 1960, the checker ECollar. And the name for that device became Teletact. And from there, the name Teletact. During the same period in the USA, there was the Tritronics and the Radartron e-collars around the same period, and again invented for hunters. So it was the hunting world that had the high drive dogs, and of course the hunters had a little bit money and a little bit smart people, some of them, and that's how it came around.
And also it's very dangerous for those dogs. People who don't go hunting with dogs don't know that, but when the dogs are on the wild boar and the wild boar, they get too close, a lot of dogs are killed every year.
And of course, people that are opposed to this idea say a dog should not hunt. Right. So that's their explanation.
Okay. Or they shouldn't be off leash, right? Or whatever.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And it means that for hundreds and hundreds of years, dogs have been selected and been worked. And then people with new ideas say, well, a dog should not hunt. A dog should have no passion, because that's the hidden agenda of animal right people, not of animal welfare people. Animal right people do not want to have animals under human hands. No domesticated animals is the ultimate agenda, and they hide themselves under the skin of animal welfare and always promote little animal welfare drama queen things. And then at the end of the message there is always something, and we need money for our battle and la la li and la la la.
Yeah, it's a very politically and monetarily driven movement. We know that, right? Nobody's in it for the benefit of the animals. They're in it for the benefit of the wallet. All these big, I'm not going to mention their names, but we know who they are. The commercials on TV, the sad dog, the shelter. None of that money, by the way, I know is going back to the shelters. It's going into the pockets. It's going into advertising and marketing and bullshit, right?
Well,
You're 100%
and
right.
Robert, Michael, and I, we have no problem that people make money, but just say,
Of course.
For
No,
our
be
case,
honest.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
So without money, we cannot survive. I mean,
No, we all make money. We
sell
make a
our
good living.
products.
Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Yes,
But
yeah.
to go back to that history of the ECollar, the
Please.
teletype,
Yes.
I did see as a young guy, 1974, I started in dog training. And in those days, the idea was, and I started dog training with bite work, Belgian ring sport. And what people must understand is they only breed with dogs that bite. They don't breed with dogs that out.
Sure.
So genetically, there is already, how
He's a
should I
good
say,
outer.
Yep.
And he'd
Yeah.
be a stud.
Yeah.
a good outer what not used. So, and then the
Right.
old mentality was the dog must learn to bite, learn to bite, learn to bite, and not learn to out. And then slowly, when the dog was 2 years, they tried to make him out by giving unpleasant feelings, but always not enough, so that the dog did win. And the unpleasant feelings became part of the game, and the dogs became so tough you cannot believe. If you do it on purpose to make them tough, you cannot copy that system.
Right.
Right. Right.
And then it's impossible. And then they went for those electronic collars, and there I did see that dogs did receive 3 seconds too late the stimulation, timing was no good. Then I did see when the helicopter of the police or the CB of the police was speaking, they were zapping the dog. So
Yeah.
the radio channels were not cleared. Me, I was a big opposite of e-collars for that reason, because I
Sure.
did see a lot of misery. I did see the bad things until in 1986, I did buy the dog named Flup. And I did buy Flup from a guy that was 7 times Belgian champ ring, Mr. Jeff Nules. So a guy that knows how to train dogs.
Yes.
Once a month, I went there to buy and sell dogs, because I always, in the old days, was a little bit making what we call chiki chaka money. Extra money. The jobby money. Eh? And when I was at Jeff, and I was always there with buyers, and I was the go in between. And then at the end, Jeff always asked me, "Hey Bart, do you have time?" And then I had to put on the suit for 10 dogs. And one of those 10 dogs was Flup. I never forget it. And when everybody did do their deal, I said, "Okay, Jeff, now for me." And then he looked at me like, "Huh, you?" I said, "Yeah," because I was a young kid, 26 years old. And I was out of gambling world. And then he asked me, "Which dog?" And I said, "Flup." And then he said immediately, I never forget it, 100,000 Belgian francs. And I said immediately, "Sold." And then
But
he
how
looked
much is
at me like,
100,000? How much? What does that convert to US dollars?
nowadays it would be $2,500.
Okay.
1986. I think
Okay.
to make that money, you had to work 4 or 5 months with no expenses.
Wow.
Okay. So
As
like
a young guy-
10,000 or more now, $20,000, right?
Minimum.
Okay. Got it.
Minimum. And then, so without hesitation, I said, "He's sold." And then Jeff looked at me for 3, 4 seconds like, "Huh, where do you get that money?" And then he said, "You pay?" I said, "Yeah, tomorrow I come back with the money." And then he said, "But I need also 10 studs from that dog." And I said, "No problem. You can have as many studs as you wanted."
Okay.
And then there became my training craziness, because that dog knew every trick. He was totally out tricked. He knew competition. He was deaf. You cannot believe. And then one day on the
Deaf at the
training
right moment.
field, there was a guy named Lou Zenny. And Lou Zenny had an old Radartron, a little battery with a collar. And I saw that. And I say, "Hey, Lou, that's a good thing. Can I have it for my training?" He said, "Bart, that's too expensive." I said, "Lou, if I break, I pay it immediately." And I showed him the money. And then I could use that thing. That dog was outing and obedient, everything perfect. So from that day, my opinion changed immediately. And by the
Okay.
way, dog I became Belgian champ. He
First
was
That
time.
was your dog, yeah.
untrainable. Yes, untrainable. Was a monster. Untrainable. And of course, if you look today, it was not looking very fancy, because it was
Yeah, yeah.
based on.
Yeah.
But from that day, I changed my mind. And from that day, I implemented the ECollar in more and more exercises than only the out. For example, what I learned there, I never forget it. Flip was a top jumper, but he liked to do the cat crawl. You put him on a jump because he was so excited to go biting because he was smart. After bite work, after jump work comes bite work.
Yeah.
So he wanted the devil chain to go faster and faster. So he did catwalk to go faster to the jump. And I did not want that. And then one day I was sick and tired of it. And I gave him a correction without preparation for stay there. And what did he do? He did fly to me at a speed you cannot believe. Because that's what he learned. I stopped the e-collar by coming back to Papa. So there I learned, whoa, when you learn with the e-collar, you must immediately do opposite behavior. And so on and so on. So the whole thing changed there. And my opinion changed because I needed it that day. And it was immediately cured. Now, in those days, we were not gentle kids when we did train dogs. It was a quite rough game. Now, by that, with that tool, I changed the whole philosophy and it became beautiful. It became harmony. And then I thought to myself, and now you use your brains because I was a sport teacher. And during the sport teaching, we did receive psychology. And in psychology, we learned about Pavlov, operant conditioning, Skinner. I never forget it. For me, it was like a revolution. Hey, folks, we did not have internet in those days. Nothing. It was no. And
Yeah.
we did not travel to other countries. When we traveled to another city, it was already a big travel. I mean, you must see everything in their context. And then that's historically how I changed from being aversive against e-collars to a fanatic user and propagandist of e-collars. And then late 80s came on market the brand Inotech, the little blue collars from Greg Van Kuren, who is now the big boss from e-collar tech.
Yep.
And that little device, was so nice, you cannot believe. So, and there we became a dealer of Inotech. And after a while, I even worked for Inotech, okay, as a sales guy. And the guys at Inotech did see that I even would work for free because I was full of passion for that thing. And yes, we did create a big, big, big market in Europe. And because you're so crazy about your own use, you are not seeing that there is also abuse from people that have no clue what they do. So, and that's what Michael and I did see over the years by being on the road. We did see that, whoa, by giving seminars, we don't reach enough people. By doing seminars, we are trick masters. It's not about the system, it's just about the quick fix. And we did not want to be the quick fixes. We want a very stable system. And that's why we went for the school. We had the school, and then by accident, Martin's system came for sale, and we did purchase Martin's system.
But I
And we
also
can
wanted to
continue.
say there's that you can see abuse and misuse and lack of education in e-collars, but there's other ways to be unfair. It's not just e-collars. So
We see
yeah,
the same with the
yeah.
clicker. We see people just clicking, and the dog doesn't know what's going on.
Right. I mean,
And what we did see in the old days was we were very good mechanical trainers. We knew what the choke collar was. We knew exactly what the pinch collar was. We knew exactly how to control dogs with the whip.
and with a leash.
And with the leash, we were very mechanical trainers.
Yes.
And if your dog understands the mechanical work, and especially pinch collar work, the chance that the dog will understand e-collar work later is quite 100%. Quite. There is one difference. There is no more leash involved for the dog. It is like the magic hand of God.
It's not personal.
It's not
Right.
personal.
I mean, the only thing I always say to people too, though, and again, I see more abuse. And again, you and I talked about this. There are statistics everywhere. And one of the statistics that I got a hold of was from the Los Angeles city shelters, where I worked for many, many, many years when you and I first started talking. And not working for them, but working with them. I want to be clear on that. The number one abuse in animal dog ownership is neglect. Right, so it's not even the idea of putting something onto the dog, like hitting, abusing, whatever. It's completely abandoning the dog. So that's the biggest abuse that we see in dog ownership. Now, we can see abuse with e-collars, and this is kind of, I want to touch on this with you. If a person puts an e-collar on a dog and hits the dog, just shocks the dog's going to run away. So that's a problem when they don't understand how to introduce it, how to condition the dog, and all that. My concern is more that people are constantly trying to ban this tool, right? They're trying to ban,
But
and it starts. Go ahead,
may I
Michael.
interrupt you for a second? It's just that because people are going to keep using it, and as you said, they need education.
Yes.
But if you make it illegal, they won't get education.
Yes,
And they will
exactly.
still use it.
And that's my
Prohibition
point.
did not work too. People made alcohol and they drank it.
Yes,
So,
and nothing worked. Look, drugs are illegal, gambling, child pornography, all these terrible things are illegal, but people do them. If we can keep the e-collar legal, we can keep it from being abused, because people like yourself, myself, other good trainers will be able to educate people on the forefront and say, here's how to use it, right?
yes.
But let's talk about this. If I pick up, and again, I'm a big fan of the Martin collar. I'm not going to make any misgivings about that. I've used it for many, many years. I've used I've used almost every brand in between. There's something special about the Martin collars. And I think goes into when you came aboard and you started really refining this, the sensitivity, the contact measurement. There's so many tools in this. In other words, I think most e-collars are archaic, right? It's a button, you push it, it shocks, and that's it. And now it can be used, I'm not saying Garmin, Dogtra, e-collar technologies can't be used properly, but the refinement of the tool that I see in your collar makes it an iPhone as opposed to the old phones you have to, that you had the big thing you carried around with you. There's a big difference to your phone. To your
That's
computer.
because we've paid for innovation.
Right, but
We've
let's talk
put
about
money-
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's talk about the
before
technology.
Before going there, Robert,
Mm-hmm.
what people must know is I did work for Inotech, and it was in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And around 2006, if my memory is well, Inotech has been purchased by Radio Systems, which is the sport dog brand, which is PetSafe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the only guys taking over by Radio System.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my jobs at Radio System was to do market investigation in which is the e-collar brand that could be a big threat for the Radio Systems brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I did buy all the e-collars from all the companies.
Isn't
and
that
you know
cool?
which brand came out number one?
Huh.
Market Systems. And I'm a Belgian guy. I even did not know from their existence.
Because it's
Yeah.
a very small company.
Tiny.
And that's how I did find out. So I
Oh,
did
I
do
didn't
my
know that.
research.
Okay.
Well, and then you brief that to the big bosses, but they did not like to hear
Of
that.
course not.
So they did not like to hear that there was a little stinky company from a little bird hunter, one engineer in a old chicken pen that does do a very nice tool,
But he did. He had e-collars, e-collars, GPS collars for
Also, yeah.
for hunting birds.
Back
so his
then.
big thing was hunting birds, and then it started with hunting birds, and then moved to dog collars. But yeah,
What people always forget when they speak about e-collars, well, there is a big family of e-collars. There is the anti-bark, there is the invisible fence, and there is the e-collar. So that's the big family.
Yeah.
And in Europe, the lobbyists did make a deal so that for the moment, in a lot of countries, the fence is still a go.
Okay.
Bark inhibitor, like in United Kingdom, recently they proposed fence a go, bark inhibitor a go, and the remote a no-go. And what people must realize is that the big companies do full distribution. And full distribution means they sell to a wholesaler that sells to 1,000 shops, 1,000 stores.
Sure.
And they need packaging and easy stuff and whatever. 90% of the sales are bark inhibitors and fences. Now, you must know that. That means that we sit on a negotiation table about the future of ECollars, and you have advocates that want the continuity of the product, and then you have the knowers that want everything gone, which is animal welfare.
Sure. Animal rights.
Now, yes, animal right people. And that's the negotiation table. And the big players, they know exactly how to negotiate. You must have in mind, I want to save everything, but I'm prepared to lose something to make the other party happy.
Cut loose a baby.
Cut loose a baby. So, what was the outcome in Europe? The outcome was, well, let's make everybody happy and let's save the bark inhibitor, let's save the fence, and let's kill the remote. By killing the remote, you make animal welfare happy, so they have a trophy to go home and say, look, we have a victory, no more ECollars with the remote. And the big distribution companies are happy because they still can
Make money.
make money, which is normal. I understand their
Yeah.
position very well. But that's the game that is played. And then there is another thing that people
Okay.
don't know, Robert.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very important. Animal welfare falls under the Minister of Agriculture. Agriculture is a very strong portfolio
Right.
in Europe and also in USA.
Yes.
That means that if they prohibit the ground fence and if they accepted the cattle fence, there is a kind of precedent. They say, whoa, we cannot prohibit the ground fence and let the other fence as a
Stay.
go-go.
Right.
That's a precedent that every strong lawyer will win.
Of course.
And that's what people don't understand. And this is the game that is played. So, and it has nothing to do with the output, because the output of the bark inhibitor
course.
and the output of the ground fence is the same on the maximum level as the ECollar that you hold in your hands, which most
Sure.
people don't do on maximum. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it has nothing to do with the danger of the tool, because
No,
if
of
it's
course.
dangerous, they must, and that's what people don't grab. I've been sitting on those negotiation tables. I know exactly how they play the game.
Okay, but let me ask you that question. You've been on those tables, right? So,
Yes,
and you
yes.
are a manufacturer. So here's my thought process. I would think as a negotiator, I would say, okay, they want to ban everything. The sacrificial child is going to be the e-collar, the remote collar. I'll give them that. I'll keep the bar collar. I'll keep the fence. In my thought, I would think, well, this is a stepping stone for them. They're going to take the e-collar, then they're going to go, well, it's also cruel that the dog is shocking himself when he's barking. I want that gone. So why don't
That's
these
coming.
manufacturers,
Yeah.
right? It is coming, but I'm saying, why don't these manufacturers, because look, the bottom line is, I think what we talked about early on in the chat, they want to get rid of dogs as pets. That there's no doubt. I mean, Ingrid Newkirk of PETA has said that blatantly. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. She does not want a pet. That's it. Which is why they kill more animals than they place. But I don't want to get into that topic. It's a whole different podcast. But now here, they also don't want people eating meat, right? The animal rights people, the animal welfare people are different. They understand, okay, we should give the chickens enough room to cluck around so we can get their eggs and we can eat them. I was a vegetarian for over 10 years. I eat meat now. I love eating meat. I don't eat meat because I want to kill animals, but I didn't invent the system. I have to stay alive, right? So take that up with somebody else. My question is, why don't manufacturers, because they're going to lose the e-collar, they're going to lose the bar collar, they're going to lose the fence, it's all going down the line. Why don't they just stand up now and say, no, It's not cruel. We're going to put more studies, money behind studies, and we're going to fight it. Why?
Well, it's a very good question with a very long answer. Are
Okay.
you ready?
Sure. Love it.
So, historically, ECMA has been founded in 2004.
Okay. Tell people what
ECollar
ECMA is. Okay.
Manufacturer
Yes.
Association, the ECollar Manufacturer Association, because in those days in France there was red alert in the hunting world because somewhere in a low text was written, it is forbidden to use electronic aids in the hunting action.
In France.
But in France. But the electronic aid was meant on the walkie-talkies that the post did speak with each other. Hey, there is hair coming there, be
They
ready.
thought it was unfair.
That was
Okay.
unfair and it was making hunting too easy. That was the original idea of that text.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it came in the hands of the Green parties, and when there is written electronics, it's easy.
Yeah.
So there was a law proposal in what they call l'Assemblée Générale, which is the chamber, where they proposed the new laws, and it was a big panic from all the e-collar manufacturers. And the first time that I saw a front line was in 2004. It was the first meeting from all the companies that were interested in Europe. They were all there. Inotech, Radio System. The only player that never was around the table was Tritronic, which is Garmin. Okay? Never. All the other players were there. And then the enemies sitting around the table. And I never forget a meeting in France. A Minister of Agriculture did invite all the stakeholders. Stakeholders mean the pro and the cons. And I was sitting beside the Minister of Agriculture. I never forget it. And I was there with a pile of dossiers and scientific studies and la la li and la la la. And then I saw the most chaotic meeting of my life. They were throwing stones from all sides. And I did hear at my left side the minister speaking to her colleague and said, "What am I happy that a certain Mr. Thierry Coste was not there." I never did hear the name of that guy. And 5 minutes before the end of the meeting, that gentleman came in dressed like a movie star and he said, "Okay, I see that you guys did start without me. My name is Thierry Coste. I'm the lobbyist of the hunters. I do represent 1,300,000 happy dogs from happy hunters." And then he pointed to everybody. "And you, in that deal, I gave you 2 million. And you, how many happy dogs do you have? Unhappy dogs, 2,000. Well, we have 1 million and so much happy dogs. Shut your mouth." He knew dirt on everybody. After 5 minutes, he said, "Well, everybody think we're on the same page. Minister, I should like to hear that from now on the e-collar is allowed again during the hunting action. Thank you. And if not, we put the bomb on Paris." I never forget it. That guy was the lobbyist from the French hunters, Thierry Coste. So, no signs, he had dirt on everybody. Because he's also, and he was also, and he still is, the lobbyist for the agriculture in France. And they are afraid of that guy. Because he knows on everybody. And that's the first time in my life that I said to myself, I will never, never, never come in a meeting again without knowing exactly who is that, how many people are behind. I understood that passion means nothing. It's about how many people are behind you and how brutal you are in meetings.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's information. It's really information. You have to have dirt.
Yes.
But you know, in that same idea, if you think about in this country, and I want to get into Europe in a minute because I know you know a lot about Europe, where I think Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, not Belgium, France, all these countries have lost. They acquiesced so quickly to all these animal rights crazies. They lost the prong collar, they lost the e-collar, they lost the crate, they they slip lead, and they got this movement where they're trying to ban protection dogs. You know, the sports. They're trying to take the stick hit away. They're doing every single thing to deteriorate not only the sport but the actual character, the drive of the dog. In America, right? You would agree with that, right, Michael?
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, but in this country, the one thing that kind of is saving us, and nobody's looking at this, is the hunters, the NRA, the people like when the rodeos, they came in to shut down the rodeos, the PBR, the rodeo tour, was like, no, we're not giving it up. It's not cruel. It's our culture. It's what we've done, and we will continue to do it. Where did Europe lose their way, where they lost
Yeah.
everything?
I know very well the European mentality. What you must
That's why, yeah.
understand is that there is no front line from the manufacturers, and there is no front line from the dog trainers. The dog training world is divided in
Tribes.
tribes. It's tribal fights.
Yes.
And the tribe that for the moment has for say is the tribe that enunciates we do everything with only positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
They preach water and they drink wine behind the corner because that's what we know. And then they could achieve by making their laws accepted. And for example, what people don't realize is in a country like Germany, if they catch you with the ECollar, you can go in jail. The maximum penalty is 5 years. If you kill a person, the minimum or the maximum is 7 years. Are we laughing?
Yeah.
And there is another thing what people don't know. The maximum financial penalty can be 25,000 euro. Now you understand why a lot of European people that use it are what we call the silent majority. And then there is a very vocal minority, the sea girls, that screams for a whole army. They poop for 10 armies, and when there is a lot of dirt and shit, they fly away, and it's the silent majority that must clean it up. And that's how we did lose the whole thing. All the federations, us sport people, nobody uses it. If Michael and I reveal all the invoices, everybody hangs.
Sure.
So we
Sure.
will never do that because that's not our style.
Of
But
course,
then
of
you think,
course.
what the hell is going on in this world?
Yeah.
If all the top people would speak what they do, and they do it well because the dog is in harmony, they do
Right.
nothing
Exactly.
wrong.
Right.
Yes.
So if they all
Yes.
speak free, we would have a front line, but there is no front line. There is
Yeah.
none. The only guy that I know that dares to speak about e-collars is Helmut Reiser.
Yes.
But he
I
also
agree.
has the money to protect his ass, and
Yeah.
he loves conflicts.
Yes.
And he's very well known about this subject. And I know Helmut with Michael, we know him very well. So that's the only guy in Europe that dares to speak open and frank.
But we know, right? We know for sure. I mean, and again, you know personally because of your business, and I'm not going to mention any names, but it's obvious that when you look at the top competitors in Europe, there's no, and I always say this, there's no secret in dog training. You're a great trainer. I'm a good trainer. This person's a good trainer. We have different accents, but we're teaching the same language, right? We're teaching communication with the dog. When we use something like an e-collar, and we use it properly, we use it fairly to communicate with the dog, to give him a fair signal. And the answer to it also is an e-collar can be used in a much lower level of correction than can a flat collar because it delivers information more effectively. These other people, like you say, there is no front line. And do you think, I mean, in a way, it's going to upset a lot of our friends in Europe, but I don't care. Do you think the Europeans have lost their backbone? They've lost their balls, let's say, to actually say, hey, you know what? This is the right thing to do. You know, when people stood up against the Nazis, it wasn't really popular. And people are going to say, oh, you're equating this to Nazis. But no, I'm equating argument to argument. If something is
But we are-
wrong, go ahead,
but
Michael.
we are equating it to a Holocaust
Yeah, well, yeah, the
Well,
whole thing.
on dogs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the dogs will be massacred in thousands. We know that that's happening all over.
let me jump in here.
Yeah.
The dogs were used in World War I to pull the cart. And before that, the dogs were used at a farm. It was the horse of the poor people. At the dogs were used to pull carts in the boats where there was not too much space, and so on and so on. And of course,
churn butter.
yes,
There's a lot of pictures and a lot of books about that actually.
so the dogs
in
were
Belgium.
working and had the working function in an economy that needed dogs to survive.
Sure.
The dog was not a luxurious product. The dog was a co-worker on the farm. You must see it in that context. And then after World War One, and now I speak for Belgium, there was a minister of agriculture that was married with the president of, and that was a lady. In those days, men did marry ladies. And he was married with the president of animal welfare. And she did find it very cruel that dogs had to pull the cart because dogs pulling, they make a noise. So she had problems with that. She did not have problem that people were also pulling and pushing. And of course, there has been abuse. There is always abuse,
Of course.
but it was not the rule. And because she had the connections with her husband, she did achieve to ban, or she did achieve the fact that a new law was installed. It is forbidden for dogs to pull the cart. The next day, 500,000 dogs were in the ditch with a stone around their neck because there was no economic function for them. In the name of who? Animal welfare? 500,000. And that's going to happen now with the ECollar. With the ECollar ban, there will come a ban on all dogs with motion.
A genocide.
A genocide will come in the name of animal welfare. Are we joking? And that's what all those animal lovers that pushes for those laws, some of them are used, some of them know it. Most people don't know what's going on behind the screens. A big genocide on dogs with motion. Because we all know that if you train a dog only positive, it's not easy. It's a very dedicated job to control a dog with a piece of meat or ball against the hair that moves or against the cat, and so on and so on. That's the reality. So they the people that are against e-collars, they know exactly that you cannot control them with only positive reinforcement. And that's why they don't want dog with motion. And that's why they don't want dog with bite work, because when a dog that does bite work out for a piece of meat, well, the dog is not biting.
Right.
Right.
The dog is
Yeah.
not biting. We know
Yeah.
that. So,
Yes.
and they also know that. I had a friend in Belgium, and I'm not going to name names, and he was the first Belgian guy to be receiving a diploma from the University of Utrecht, which was in Holland. And in those days, Utrecht was the first to give a behavior university degree. And he told me, Bart, there is a hidden action from these behaviorists. They don't want to have dogs with bite work. They don't want to have dogs with animosity. The hidden agenda is no more dogs in hands of human beings. And all the steps to achieve that is, and it started with no stick in the bite work, a stuffed stick in the bite work. Yet today there is no more stick in the bite work, the jumping lower and lower, and so on and so on. Every sport goes higher and further. A little thing, the first Tarzan in the movies was Johnny Weissmuller.
Yep.
Johnny Weissmuller was a big, strong guy. Now in every team in the world, there is a lady from 14 years old that swims faster than Johnny Weissmuller. But we in dog sport, we go lower and lower and lower in everything. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. It's
here's-
ridiculous.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Again, they're also breeding softer dogs. They're culling out dogs that are too hard as well. We have
Well,
to say
it
that.
starts already in the breeding. In the
Right.
old days, for bite work, we never did take the pup that came to people. Never. That was the no-go. We never did pick out the pup that was running behind prey. Never. We did take the pup that was a little bit beside, and we need the protection dog, a real protection dog in those days, a dog that protects you from nature and does not protect you in a game. That was our idea. Today, we are 20 years later, 30 years later, we see the opposite.
Yeah.
We only take the dog, the pup that comes to human beings, and we only take the pup that is crazy on prey. And there is a holocaust already on all the dogs that don't have those instincts. I
Yeah.
come out of the sport world. I know that
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
If the pup at 6 weeks old is not putting the pencil up and moves the pencil,
Yeah.
they don't take it. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
outranged.
Yeah.
So there is a holocaust going on already behind the screens on the dogs that have no dopamine, the
Yeah.
non-dopaminated dogs, because
Yeah.
the dopamine dog you can train very well on
Yeah.
positive reinforcement, and now
Yeah.
and then you give a plus correction that nobody does see. That's how the sport people do it, eh?
Yeah.
I
Well, so
mean,
I'm gonna say one thing, because a lot of my Jewish friends, my wife's Jewish, they take real offense to saying Holocaust, because the Holocaust really refers to 6 million people who were killed just because
yes,
they were Jews. So
yes,
I want to take that word out of the conversation. But
Okay.
it is, and I know you're sensitive to it too. I'm just saying the word gets used a lot, and I don't want to use it because it is a sensitive issue. I studied the Holocaust. So anyway, but what I want to talk about is there is a mass, whatever we
a
want to call it,
mass murder
genocide, a
program. Let's
mass
call it
murder
like
program against these dogs.
that. Yeah.
And it's an agenda-driven thing, and it's complete BS. Because people don't care about these dogs. They're breeding softer dogs. Also, I want to let's rattle some feathers. Okay, we can do this, Bart and Michael. Remember a while ago that podcast came out, and I mean, I hope we can talk about it. Martin Ritter in Germany. He's the comedian who has a dog training schools, and he was saying, "Oh, all this, Newt Fuchs
He's in
is
charge
using
of the licensing.
alcohol." Oh, is he really a charge of dog
He's
license
in
or
charge of
licensing
the
for schools?
licensing in Germany. Yes, you must go to his school.
Well, first of all, here's the thing. If you have this kind of person, just like if you have Cesar Millan running it here or Victoria Stilwell running it in England, and I'm not casting any aspersions, here's my issue with it. Every good dog trainer I've seen, whether it's you, me, people we know, they're not going to criticize other people, right? But to come out and to say, because one of the things he said in his podcast, because I listened to it, it's all in German. I speak German well. I know you do as well, Bart. He said, "Oh, these dogs are horribly dangerous. They will bite you." And I've been in the sport for, as a fan and a somewhat participant for 10, 12 years. You've been doing this for many, many, many years. And I've had people on the show who are military trainers, Steve Stoops, Shannon, many, many people. Do you, in your opinion, feel that any of these dogs, and I'm saying the sport dogs today, Belgian ring, French ring, IGP, Mondio ring, any of these sports, do you think these dogs are sport dogs? They're having a fun time. They're handler, or they're equipment specific, or do you think there's real aggression there?
Well, let's say
Depends
that
on the dogs.
depends on
first
the
of all,
dogs, and sometimes for dogs it's hard to find the difference between training and reality.
Okay,
An example, I go the opposite way.
please.
Years ago, the Belgian ring sport, the French ring sport, KNPV, was the place to be to buy police dogs, army dogs, and so on and so on. In
Yes,
despite the fact that they were trained on tools, which is
equipment.
costumes.
Right.
We had a type of dog that did not need a costume. So it means that we had a type of dog that had a little bit dirtiness. It's like you have people that are good in judo, karate, whatever, as long that they are on a tatami, where on the other side there is a person doing the same sport.
Yeah.
But when they're on the street and there is a holdup going on, they don't dare to move because they don't have that real dirtiness. We see the
Yes.
same in dogs. So it means that, an example, years ago, I do sell a dog to Cobra, and Cobra is Special Forces Police of Austria. And you must remember it was in those days where the Olympic Games were disturbed by terrorism.
Yep.
You remember that? Munich?
I
It
do
was
remember the
short
Munich
afterwards.
Games.
So all of Europe and in the whole world, anti-terroristic agenda was number one, and they needed dogs and so on and so on. So we sell a very good dog to the Austrian Cobra. And then happened something. There was a hostage going on where Turkish wolves, which is an extreme group out of Turkey, were hosting people getting people hostage. How do you call that?
Taking them hostage.
Taking them
Hostage.
hostage. Special police comes, and those guys were specially trained for that. They make the window exploding, and they throw that dog in. And the guy that was doing the hostaging was on his knees and had the phone on his head. And the dog did bite him in the face and it squeezed the whole head together. The hostage was solved, no blood, nobody did die. The only person that had big damage was the gray wolf, which was now a wolf with a half head. And from that moment, the press was on it, and they did hear the damage. And from that moment, they said, whoa, 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 whoa. In the future, we're going to use our weapons, we're going to shoot. And the damage of the bullet is much less than the damage like this dog did do. Eh? So, I mean, these were dogs trained for the sport that immediately catch on in the reality like that.
But those are
With
special dogs.
Yes, with my Belgian dog Flip, the Belgian champ. I was champ in 1992. I'm coming home and I had a little red car. I never forget it. And I opened my car and I was living in the city. And then there was a guy running full speed and he throws a plastic bag under my car. And at the same moment, I hear a lady screaming, catch the thief, catch the thief. And me, without thinking, I take my dog Flip out of the car.
It's the
I
same
put
one,
him,
man.
the same Belgian
Yeah.
champ. I put him a muzzle on, and that dog did smell like
Smelled
the-
fear
the-
pheromone.
The fear pheromone in his life, and it did track the whole thing on leash. And at a certain point, we come, and in those days it started, we come in a passenger zone where there is stores where no cars are. There was hundreds of people on the streets. And I did see the people flying out of each other, and my dog was pulling me because I had him on a leash until he stops in front of a store where they sell big televisions. I never forget it. And I was thinking, what the fuck is going on here? And he pushes to the door. I go in, and my dog pulls, and there is one person in that room. And he's with his back to me. And by coincidence, I say, hey, you. And the guy turns around and he was sweating in the middle of the winter. My dog wanted to kill him. And that was a nice dog. My dog wanted to kill him. And then 2 seconds later, 5 seconds later, there is another gentleman coming in and say, oh, colleague, I take over. And was looking colleague. So they were thinking that was
was
a
a
silent.
cop.
Yes, that was a real cop.
Undercover.
That was a real undercover cop, and he was thinking that I was also a cop. And I said, whoa, I'm not a cop. But this guy, I explained a little bit, and then he touched him, and they did find, I think, 20 different passports and money and so on and so on. Anyway,
It was the newspaper.
I was in the
Yeah.
newspaper, and I did receive from the mayor in those days a thank you letter from a heroic event and blah, 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 blah. I did do nothing. But that dog, from instinct, did get that track immediately. And he was
Right.
never trained on civil.
Right.
Never, never, never. Because everybody could touch him.
But
You see what I
the
mean?
dog, no, I agree with you. But that's obedience or tracking or something like that. I mean, I'm talking about the underlying aggression, right? Do you think dogs nowadays, especially the sport dogs, if you looked at the FMBB, the World Championships of any of these sports, do you honestly think those sport dogs, those dogs that are competing, pose a danger to an average person or a child or anything like that? I mean, they're
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No.
I mean, I just
No,
don't
because-
see it.
No.
And there is also another thing. Today, all those dogs go through a test and so on and so on. Eh? I remember when I was competing in the old days, that's years ago, it was when before going on the field, the judge had to touch the testicle of the dog to see if he had two testicles. There was a drama. There was a fight going on you cannot believe. Or chip control. My God.
But you
Sure.
know, there
No
is
problem.
a lot of people who do sport and want to see a more aggressive bark or a more aggressive stance, and that's the reason why a lot of people do defense work. But in our opinion, dogs either have it or they don't have it. If
Yeah,
you
it's
try
genetic.
to put it in for a dog that doesn't have it, you're going to make a schizophrenic crazy dog.
Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
and that's true. But
Yeah.
a lot of dogs, like our dogs, we would
You know,
It's spontaneously when they're ripe and when they're older. We never do defense.
we have the bloodlines that do it automatically.
Yes.
Sure.
And then
Sure.
there is another thing. If you see training today where there is a lot of defense, we are thinking, whoa, genetically they took out the
Yes.
defense and the
Right.
postman barking
On purpose.
on purpose, and trainings wise they bring it in again.
And yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
It's
doesn't
like-
make sense.
It's like
No.
taking a soft mouth lab and teaching them bite work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good conclusion.
Perfect
what Michael
analogy.
makes.
Yeah.
A lot that has been selected over the years,
To have a soft mouth.
and the selection was not nice and sweet. To have a soft mouth, only the soft mouths did survive. In the
Yeah.
Springer world, the Springer, the same thing. If they ask me, Bart, do you let my Labrador or my Springer Spaniel bite? I say no, because I don't want to bring in
What
what
was
other people did
spend
select the dog out of. I
Right.
don't want to bring it in.
For generations and generations, it took to get rid of
Right.
it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
right?
I
What
don't
was
do
the
that.
point?
What was the point? So
And the
I
process,
say,
like you said, the process was not pretty, right? And that's something we're not looking at today, and it's something you and I have talked about. You know, in the old days, the dog didn't cut it; the dog went in the bucket, right?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
every dog, the dog has 3 legs, a cleft palate, and 1 eye. We're going to find the dog a home. The dog is horribly aggressive. We're going to find the dog a home, and we're not doing dogs any favors by being, you know, by maybe what we said before, by loving them, because this is a misguided love, right? This is people who, I mean, this is going to be really unpopular. This is people
It's
who
a
go into
ticking
jail.
bomb.
It's a ticking time. It's people who go into jails. My father was murdered, so I have a right to say this. If you go into a jail and you find people who have murdered people and you're going to rehabilitate them and whatever, I got a problem with it. If you have dogs that are dangerous, I worked in shelters. There's certain dogs I said, kill that dog, kill that dog, kill that dog, because you're not doing them any favors taking them out. There's so many nice
There's
dogs.
so
that-
many. Yes,
Right.
there's
You
so
know-
many nice ones that you can save. Why spend 5 times as much?
You know, as a professional in the beginning, you need money. And I was in that situation. So I did accept aggression jobs. At the end, I did see that most dogs were not aggressive at all. They just needed
Some
clear
man-
rules,
Some manners,
some manners, and
better habits.
better habits. And the trainer must be busy, or the owner must be busy with their dog, because if for weeks they don't look to the animal, like you said, that the animal
Right.
is in the garage alone,
It's neglect.
there is neglection. And yes, so, and then very fast we did see that most of the aggressive dogs are not aggressive, but they need a handler that can handle them. And we did see that within a few weeks the dogs were handling perfect and went back to the owner, but after a while it becomes sloppy again. So from that moment, if we did not need the money anymore, we said we don't do aggression work anymore. And yes, there is some crazy dogs that must be put asleep. There is something
And
wrong
there's
genetically.
Yeah,
so-
and there's also you get both sides. People who say my dog is very aggressive and they're actually not. And then you get people who say my dog is friendly and they're actually
not.
not. Those are the ones, yeah.
that are the dangerous ones.
Yeah.
Those are the worst ones. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my dog's friendly. My dog's. You know, a lot of things I've seen too is dogs, are, for the most part, are going to be fearfully aggressive, lack of socialization, lack of experience, and stuff like that. Dominantly aggressive dogs, from what I've seen in thousands of dogs I've seen through the shelter and my private thing, they don't. There's a couple, you know, where they're actually going to really tear you apart.
Yeah. There's a couple. We've known a couple.
Yeah.
But those
The
are
rarest.
real rare psycho monsters. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just like people, there are
Yeah.
real rare psycho monsters.
It's
you
a
know?
story that people don't know about the pit bull, but the pit bull was,
This is going to be unpopular too.
well,
Good.
yes and no. The pit bull has been selected to fight in the pit.
Sure.
And when the pit bull was aggressive on human beings, he was out-selected
Killed.
immediately. They did
Exactly.
not, yes, they did not accept that. In the meantime, the dog became popular, and those dogs that did not, or that were not out-selected, they were bought back again, and that are the dangerous dogs.
Sure.
If they
Sure.
put the same aggression on people, you have a
Yeah.
ticking bomb. And I had 3 or 4 cases like that in my life where I had to take the decision and say, people, this is a no-go. You must
Yeah.
do the necessary here.
Yeah.
And then you make yourself not popular, but at the end,
Yeah. Well, the pit bull was bred to fight dogs in a pit, like you
Yeah.
said. So when people
Yeah.
say they're not dog aggressive, well, that goes against. It's like saying a shepherd isn't a herder. It's not going to herd things. It's
Yeah.
exactly what it was bred to do. Now, what you said is true, because what happened is those dogs, they would cull. They'd say, okay, that dog's not dog aggressive enough. He's not. Okay, we're going to kill him, and they would take him up. But
Yeah.
then people started saying, oh, well, don't kill him. Let's put him in the shelter. And people say, well, and now he was already used as a bait dog, so he's already got a negative instinct. And when a dog kind of comes after him, and that dog doesn't have that drive that really dominant dog had, now he will fight, or he will turn on the owner if he was handler aggressive, and all those things. So it's an ugly truth. I used to talk about it a lot in my shelter work. They would just take the dog, they would electrocute him, and they'd be dead. And that's it. End of discussion. When people started trying to do the loving thing and save them, it became a disaster. And that's why you have, they're killing a lot of little dogs. They're killing, they're attacking children, mauling them and stuff like that. I've saved a lot of pit bulls in my life. Nobody that I know has worked more with pit bulls, but there are some really bad ones, and they should be
Of course.
killed too. Just like a lot
Well,
of shepherds. But-
Robert, another example.
Yeah.
I had a top dog, Zot. Zot
Yeah.
was a psychopath. I could
Was
buy
Zot?
him.
Wait a minute, Bart. Let me ask you a question. Was Zot the dog that you did all that great stuff with the ball on the ground?
Yeah.
It's a
That's
video.
Thor.
One of the first.
That's
No,
Thor.
that's Thor. That's
Black
Oh, that's
dog is
Thor. Okay.
That's-
Okay, Thor. I remember Thor.
Thor was one of the first out of Zot.
Oh, Thor was out of Zot. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go
Yes.
ahead. Now tell
Yes.
me the
And he
story about
was-
Zot.
Character-wise, he was totally the opposite.
Yeah. Super.
Ah.
Yeah, no.
Because that's a very interesting
Yeah.
story. Again, I could buy Zot when he was 3 months old, not 3 years, 3 months.
Yeah.
And the owner calls me and says, Bart, I have a dog. I cannot handle him. I say, okay, how old? And he tells me
3 months.
3 months. And Noel van de Winkel, the guy that did sell the dog to me, was twice Belgian champ. So he's not Mr. Nobody neither. And I was thinking, what for a dog is that? And I went to his farm, and Noel was not there. And I was looking in the kennels. I did not see the dog. And then I went to the trailer, and there I saw a little bear in a kennel with no face, no mask. Normally, a Malinois is a black mask. And at that moment, Noel arrives, and he says, hey, Bart, do you find the psychopath? I say, I did see him, but what's wrong with that dog? And then he said to me, I show you. And Noel had a red Royal Canin plastic, how do you call it, kiwi against the rain. Plastic
Okay.
jacket.
Raincoat.
Little
Oh, rain jacket. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, in red. I never forget it. And he opens the door of that trailer, and the dog nails him in the middle of his chest. And Noel starts hitting him to stop. He said, whoa, 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 come. Because I wanted to buy that dog.
Yeah. Then he said, I'm buying.
And then his jacket was totally ripped, and the dog was back in the trailer. And Noel said, you see, that dog is crazy. He must go away. And I said, wait. And then there was a big brickstone on the ground. I never forget it, a brickstone. And I said, Noel, move that a little bit. I want to see if he takes that. Okay. he opens the door very gently, and the dog nails that big brickstone, and he runs around on the farm with that brickstone in his muzzle with the tail up. And I tell
buy him.
Noel, I buy him. You really give €1,500, which was 30,000? I say, yeah. You don't want to see him biting? And I was thinking,
Just
if he
did.
holds, and if he bites a stone, he will bite a costume. Also, I said,
Yeah.
no, because I was afraid
The price
to,
would go up.
the price
Right.
would go up. I said, no. And then I bring the dog home, and home he did the same with me. I opened that door, boom, he nails me. I said, whoa, this is not normal. And then I had the lucky shot of my life. There was a big empty soccer ball, and I could he did break my jacket, and it was because he had a home run. And I did open the door again, and he did nail that soccer ball immediately, and then he calmed down. I put the leash around his neck, and I never had problems again with that dog. And there I understood
He has to have something
that
else.
dog is crazy. He needs something in his mouth. And as soon as he has something in his mouth, it's like a pacifier. And he was calm. And as long as that dog had something in his mouth, he was even not outing it. And from that day, I learned to make a big dumbbell with weights so that he was muscled up. And when I did do competitions, I always had that thing. I called it my muzzle. So by holding that thing, because he was crazy, he would attack everything that moved. You cannot believe. And I showed him a tree and I said, bite. He did fly in that tree and he did bite the tree. That was a psychopath of a dog. If that was a human being, he was on death row and he would have been executed. I mean, it was
Yeah,
not normal.
I
But I did play with that dog and I did win. And then I said, I will never breed that dog because aggression
Yeah.
is the first reaction on fear.
Yes.
So, but he did never do fear run away. He was not a flyer. He was immediately
fighter. I'm
going
afraid and I'm gonna fight.
frontal, always frontal.
But a funny story, when I saw the picture from Bart winning the championship with him, it was on the wall, my first trip to Belgium, and there's Bart kneeling on the ground, and Zot has something in his mouth, and he's looking down, and Bart is looking at him, and the photographer is taking the picture, and the you can see there's a communicate. I said, "Is that the best you could get? Is that the best you could get?" And he said, "Yes, I have to watch him because
He wanted
if
to
he
nail the
looks
photographer.
at the photographer, he's going to want to bite." So he must look away. Don't look at him, and then I can't take my eyes off him.
And then I don't forget, on the Belgian championships where I win, there was local television.
Oh,
And in long down, it's 1 minute long down. Yeah, down. And you, the handler, you must go away. And then the local television, the
They
television guy was doing like an Indian on his belly. He came closer and closer. I had a whistle in my mouth to recall.
because he listened. But
Yeah, he listened like a machine, you cannot believe. But I was afraid that he would have nailed that guy. But
But-
that was a psychopath.
yeah, but the grandson was also a psychopath.
But now comes, I did do an excessive breeding fee for that dog because I did not want that dog to go in that, what we call, mating circuit.
Right.
Because people have that crazy idea that you must go to the champs for breeding.
Yeah.
So I did put breeding money very high, but in despite of that, they still came. So I had to use him as a breeding dog, and I must say, a lot of times the opposite came out. Very social dogs, very nice dog, and fire they all had. Because one of the first sons was Flup, we called him Bambi, and Bambi became twice DVG champ in Germany for a gentleman that never trained a dog before.
And that dog was really sweet.
Sweet as a cookie, you couldn't believe.
That's why the nickname Bambi.
Oh, right.
But when he's working and doing bite work and stuff, you're scared. I mean,
Yeah.
you
And then
looked.
Black Doctor also came out of the psychopath. And what people don't know is that if the male dog has what we call the genotype and it's recessive, and the phenotype recessive black, the black color is phenotype and it's recessive, you don't see it. And if the female is red and also has the gene black color recessive, you cannot see it until 32 generations later. A totally black dog can come out of two red dogs, and in mankind is the same. Eh? Yeah. For dogs, the generation is every year. In the human mankind, the generation is 20 years later.
Yeah.
You're gonna see marriages exploding on the color of the child because of this, what we call recessive gene.
Yeah.
Eh? But nobody knows that. It will be 600 years later.
Wow. That's crazy.
Black Doctor came out of that crazy psychopath, and he was nice to everybody. He's totally other dog. You cannot believe.
Yeah.
So
That was the
you
first
see,
video I saw of you training.
Yeah, and
Black dog.
what people don't know is that was a shot, non-stop, no cut. It has been edited like it was filmed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in those days, we wanted to go away from the bite work to show people something else.
Right.
Control.
And Black Dog Thor has been the best ambassador ever for Michael and me. Because Black Doctor did bring people together from different breeds. The Labrador, people did see something in him as a Labrador.
German
The
Shepherd.
German Shepherd, Black German Shepherd people, the Rottweiler people, everybody did recognize something
Yeah.
in that dog.
He looked like a German Shepherd, though. At first look, I thought he was a German Shepherd, too, because he looked like a bicolor German Shepherd.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very
And
beautiful
in
animal.
those days, Helmut Reiser, my good friend, in the RSV 2000 said, Bart, I can make that dog a German Shepherd. And I said, Helmut, he already has papers of FCI of Malinois. I cannot do that because we are already persona non grata. If we do that, there is a big revolution going on. So
Yeah,
I did
yeah,
not do
yeah.
it. But now Michael and I have the same type of dog. We have a bitch. She's black. She's the same, totally the same as Thor. 100% the same.
Wow.
And Thor lived in the house, like our bitch lives in the house. You don't hear them. They are the best guard dogs ever. If something happens, they tell you, and they only tell you if needed. They don't
Yeah.
have that excessive barking. They just smell it. They are good
Right.
dogs.
Yeah, but that's
And of
genetic.
course, well, good genetics and good training. I
Right,
think
right.
the
But you
whole
have to
pie
start with,
together.
yeah, I agree. But too many people try to put a square peg in a round hole, and they get these dogs that are genetic messes and try to train them, and
Yeah.
or the dog doesn't have something, they're trying to put it into the dog, like we were saying, like the
Yes.
aggression,
That's
and it's so
Well,
sad.
but that's the problem today with the type of dog they are looking for, the what we call dopamine dog, the tail up dog. So they think they have a dog with drive, but they don't see that they have a nervous wreck.
Yes.
Because a dog must be able to calm down. A dog must have moments with tail down and relax.
Yeah.
That's a good dog, but they must wake up. The working dog must wake up, and then the fire kicks in when they have to work and they calm down and they must be able to sleep. If you cannot achieve that, you will never have success. Never.
So what do you think really is the answer to this? Because seeing your background and Michael's background, I know you had your training in Washington D.C. You had a very, very successful training there. When I first met you, started talking to you guys, Bart, with your European background, where does this really come together? Like what is the future of, because I think the sports are so important. And I think if they go, by the way, if they go for IGP, Belgian ring, French ring, Mondial ring, and all that, the next thing they're going to go for is they're going to go for agility. They're going to go for barn hunting. They're going to go for dock diving. They're going to destroy every dog sport. And this is why I've talked to the people over at Canine Sports in Germany. We've got to pull together. At some point, we've got to unite against this radical, force-free movement, because there is no future for dog sports, and then there'll be no future for dogs. What do you see as the future? Because you've watched the evolution of this over 40 plus years.
Well, let's say like this, huh? Politicians, they play a game and they want to please the majority. So the majority does not want that type of dog, so they will kill the whole thing. Ring sport is not 5 before 12, it's 30 past 12. It's over and out. KNPV is close to over and out. French ring the same. There is no young people coming. It's sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you see the same in all the other sports. In the sports, even without dogs. When I was a young kid in the soccer teams, we could line up 6 teams per age. Now they
Yeah.
cannot line up 1 team per age.
Yes, you're right.
It's over.
and
So
even horse shows, they're outlawing it in certain.
and then in my days, you started something and you had to stay in that.
Yeah.
That means that you started judo. Well, you did judo all your life. Don't dare to speak about soccer to your parents. Nowadays, there's more the tendency of doing a lot of things. But going to dog sport back, I think that about the working dog, The Last Mohican, the movie is going on. The Last Mohican, it's playing. We are
Living it.
living it in Europe, certainly.
Yeah.
And what you do see is that Americans start to teach in Europe about dog training, which is totally new. Normally, it was always the other side. It was
Sure.
Europeans that did teach the Americans. But we do see that all the classic countries, KNPV, Belgian ring, French ring. There was no evolution. It was a cultural game where you do it like your granddaddy did do it and his over granddaddy did do it. So there was no modern things involved in it. By the way, we never gave a seminar in Belgium, never. Nobody was ever interested to hear it.
Sure.
It's always like that, eh? So,
Sure.
but we see that that's dying, and the politicians make the big majority happy, but they also want to make the minority happy. So they're going to
Well,
come
yeah.
with exceptions on the rule. And the exception on the rule is the licensing. The licensing on dog training will come.
It already is here in certain states.
The only
Really?
way out of, yes,
In California, don't you have to have a
No.
license?
No, business license, but not a dog training license. There's no such thing yet.
Oh, okay.
in Germany, to do dog training as a profession, you need a license
Yes.
from the circus
Martin.
clown, Martin Rutter.
Yeah.
Crazy. I didn't
must.
realize that.
You
That's
must.
that's insane.
Yes. Yes.
But this is something we
So-
talked about, so many times, like when I got in the argument with the guy here, the science-based dog trainers, or they're calling them, it's actually a shame to science-based dog training, because science-based dog training is understanding classic conditioning, the 4 quadrants, but nowadays science-based dog training has a whole new definition. Science-based dog training means purely positive, but it's not. Science-based dog training understands there are 4 quadrants, and a dog learns equally well from all 4 quadrants. That's why they're called 4 quadrants, not one is 1/3 and 2/3. Right. I mean, it's super simple to understand. What I'm concerned about, though, is there, closing our conversation, is there something, because you said politicians listen to the majority. I think politicians listen to the noisiest people. And I think it happens here. You see a lot of the whole movement of go woke, go broke. They're going to go into this, they're going to really embrace this one ideology. And I don't care what it is. I'm as open-minded
you're
as
100%
anybody.
right.
Yes.
Robert, you're
Right.
100% right. The minority is what we call the seagulls. And that's why it's seagull politic. It's a minority that acts as a majority.
Yes.
And the majority is silent.
Silent. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. How come, or how can we pull people together like you and I? You and I have always been very outspoken. I'm very outspoken. I get a lot of enemies, but I don't mind. But the people who are in Europe, the top people in the sports, in the games, in the training, how can these people finally just stand up and go, hey, you know what? I'm like what you're saying, Helmut Reiser. Okay, he's a model for these ideologies. This is what I believe in. Yes. Do I use an e-collar? Yes. Will I correct a dog? I had a dog, a Malinois that came after me. I corrected the dog because other people won't take that dog as a client, or they will destroy this dog through positive reinforcement of those bad behaviors so much. So I'm not afraid to show it. I'm going to correct the dog because I'm not going to get bit. I hate getting bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I give credit to people who like it and who do it, but how do we unite people to say, hey, we are the dog lovers. We are the ones who care about the future of the dogs, of all dogs, because in my house, I can have a 10-pound dachshund and I can have a 65-pound Belgian Malinois, and everybody's happy.
Well, what I think there is a lot of backbiting in the dog industry.
Yeah,
And what people don't understand is that there are plenty of dogs to go around.
sure.
So if you're a good trainer, helping some other trainer doesn't hurt you because there's plenty of dogs. There's plenty of business. There's
Yes.
more business. You're in business for a lifetime. You have a lifetime worth of clients in front of you waiting in a line.
Right.
And I do
agree.
think it's a little bit. I was speaking with a guy today, and he said it's a little bit interesting how the dog people fight amongst each other,
Yeah.
and they will work on a dog and let the dog. If the dog has a problem, they'll spend so much time and efforts to make sure this dog is good. But with people, they're not like that. With people, they want to cancel them. They want to fight with them. They want to have a tribal war with them. They want to say your training isn't as good as mine, and blah, blah. And that is part of, I think, what is really killing the industry and the tools and the freedom that we have to breed, own, and train dogs the way we want.
Okay, so on that, let me ask one second, Bart, because it's an excellent thing you said, Michael. My wife Janet said something really interesting. She said it's unfair to, let's say, us in this country, because we're going to say, yeah, if we're training a dog for, let's just take IGP for example. Okay, I'm using an ECollar to correct this or to do this or to that. Now, if I'm competing with somebody, let's say I want to pick a country that nobody's going to, whatever, Finland, okay? And in Finland, it's illegal to use an ECollar. And people say, well, that, John Smith from Finland won the world championships and they don't use ECollars there. How come you here in America have to use an ECollar? How do we answer that?
Well,
we know they're using them.
We know they're using it. And the thing is that...
Well, it's an easy answer. Eh? The penalty on using it is 5 years of jail.
Right.
And the penalty is 25,000 euro. And most people are afraid of that. And if your profession is, I don't know what, and you want to have, how should I say, peace of mindset, you don't speak about it, because if you speak about it open and free, they come on your property, they poison your dogs, and so on and so on. It's a minority that does stop for nothing.
And the thing is,
we had our top dog Jack that was poisoned. We still don't know who, and I don't want to know it, but he was poisoned, of course. And if you know who, well, that guy has bad cards, or that lady, I don't know, but there is bad people in this world you cannot believe, and they do that in the name of animal welfare. But you and I and Michael, we do animal welfare. Our dogs, they look good, they are brighting, they have air, they can swim, they have social contact,
freedom,
everything they need.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you a little story that I was speaking with a guy. I'm not going to mention who it is, but he was telling me a story about how he lives on a farm and he opens the gate and he has a big place that's available to him, a couple acres, and then there's not a very busy street. So he's shutting his gate one time and he's not very rigorous with his dog, and his dog is not wearing an e-collar, and he's shutting the gates, and there's a truck driving by and the guy throws out an apple core, and his dog thought that the guy was throwing out a ball. He happened to be looking, and he ran over and ran to that thing, and another car came by and hit him. And then he went, and to make a long story short, with positive reinforcement, you cannot have an immediate must. And that's why it's very interesting. We were in a podcast with someone, and the guy said, if you could train your dog and train them perfectly, would just using positive reinforcement or NAPOPO, which would you do? Imagine that they look the same. Well, we would train them in NAPOPO because we have a good relationship. It still looks sparkly. It's on cue with heart and soul. But in the case of somebody throwing an apple core out of the car window, we have an immediate must should we need it. And in positive reinforcement, you don't have that. So it's responsible. It's responsible ownership.
I mean, if we can get people to understand that single theory, I think people would change. It's, if you go to a nice party and you're driving in your car, this is an analogy I use. You're wearing a seatbelt in case you get in an accident, but your shirt is going to be wrinkled from the seatbelt pressing against you. Right. Overall, you're going to get there alive. Everything is safer. But people take this out of it.
And you're going to, you still have insurance, don't you? When was the last time you got in a car accident?
Right. Never. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
but
agree.
You still pay for auto insurance.
It's a crazy thought. I mean, I like your idea. We do need to pull together. Again, I've given away more clients than I've ever taken on because of my business. I'm sure you guys, have more people coming to you, whatever. If we could just pull together more people, and this is why I wish I could get more people to come on the podcast, like who are completely opposites of me, which is sad. We agree on 99.9% of everything, but this conversation, bridging this gap of understanding that we can bridge a gap between people who love dogs but want to see it differently. Those are the conversations we really need to have as well.
Bridging the gap is easy. We need tolerance for the full quadrant. And the full quadrant is all the reinforcers must be accepted. For example, Michael and I, we use the full quadrant. We use everything. But we accept other trainers to only use positive reinforcement. If they are successful for that, no problem.
Yeah.
But why do they have critiqued the way we do it? Our dogs look happy. They do it with heart and soul. They do it on cue. They have
healthy.
a nice life. What's the problem?
Yeah.
So your question was, what's the solution in Europe? What can we do? Well,
all over. I'm saying in Europe, we're really seeing the
Yes.
decay of freedoms in dog training.
And we will see it here too.
No,
We will
I
see
know.
it
I
here.
know. I agree.
nobody did believe it would come.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Nobody.
I know. But and that's what
why
they're saying
everybody,
here.
Well, the same mentality here.
Yeah.
But did you see the movie from Mel Gibson, Braveheart? Well, there, if my memory does not lose me, Braveheart is the guy that was trying to bring the clans together against the King of England, the Scottish clans. And then he's on the battlefield, and then he's winning over the enemy, and he takes the mask off, and what does he see? One of his own clan members that was supposed to fight at his side. That's a little bit what happens in dog world. That means that wherever Mel Gibson is, there is always the manipulations from the sport federations, the manipulations from everybody you cannot believe. I was in meetings for ECMA in Belgium, my country. And then all the stakeholders were invited, police, gendarmerie, sport, and they all come and sit there. And then comes the question from the Minister of Agriculture. Do you guys use the ECollar? Mr. Bellon, yes. And then the round of the table, no, we never use it. And I said, my God, but are you lying or what?
Yeah.
Right.
So they all lie.
Yes.
Of course, the police does send their chief officer, which is a vet, which never did train dogs.
Right.
And the army also did send their vet, which maybe did not know that the low rank all uses ECollar, pinch collar, and so on and so on. Because what they don't understand is, if a dog bites a human being, a police dog, if a war dog bites the enemy, you must, as soon as possible, stop the biting action from the dog on a human being.
As soon as the person is restrained or giving up.
If
That's the
you
Geneva Convention,
don't-
right?
Yes. And if
Yeah.
you don't do this, the Geneva Convention kicks in.
Yep.
And then the general is in problem. And that
Yeah.
vet that did came on the table and did lie. And it is for that reason that in France recently, there was again, because in France, it's the same situation like in 2004, the Green Party did bring in again a law proposal to stop and to ban pinch collars, e-collars, and choke collars. One exception, the French army, because they use Nepopo, and Nepopo stands for the full quadrant. That's it. We were nearly falling down our seats when we did hear that. And it's written and it's typed in the whole thing. That means that the whole help did not come from our allied people. The help did came from our enemy that want to stop it, because Michael and I are ready since years with the full program. They never ask us to help. We have everything ready. Our e-collar, we can tune it so that the Minister of Agriculture could see all the stimming behaviors from everybody. And if somebody exaggerate in stimming behavior, we could send a person to say, hey, we do see that there is a little bit too much on the high levels, what's going on here? And if the person gives a nice explanation, no problem, eh? But if you see that there is animal abuse, you immediately interfere. So we have all the technology. We are ready. We are ready with the full quadrant teaching. So your question to us, what can we do? Robert, to tell you the truth, we are sick and tired to sit on tables with the allied tribes, the allied clans, and when The reality is there. They are fighting in the other camp.
Yeah.
So Michael and I go brutally our way, and our way is we're going to reach millions and millions of people with online training, with a free application, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, NEPOPO. That application, the price is $1 million. Michael and I, we can go in pension. We sell everything and we say, bye-bye, fuckers. We don't need your whining anymore. No, we stay in this bloody business because we are 100% convinced that we can still put something in the scale. And it's about the full quadrant. Hey,
Yeah.
we know, for example, in Holland, there was discussions about this 10 years ago. And then they asked me to lobby. And I said, well, if you ask me, you must pay me because I'm a professional. Oh, you don't do it for free? I said, no.
Of course
They
not.
did not come. And then later I do hear that at the negotiation tables, the name Nepopo did fall, and then the allied people, our friends, all say, no, 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 we don't need that. They prefer everything in the ditch
Yep.
than to go for licensing. And I'm going to
Sure.
tell you another thing about licensing. One day there was a king, and his people in his country were stupid. So, and he obliged the kids to go to school because there was too much analphabetism. Analphabetism is not genetical. It is a learning process. It has nothing to do with genetics, nothing. It has to do with the environment where you grow in. One day, there was a guy seeing there is too many accidents on the road. Let's introduce a driving
Driver's
license. The
Now you have to have it.
and of course, there is still accidents, but much less. So, by implementing a license, you will make the whole thing survive. Another anecdote 20 years ago in Germany,
Making education.
20 years ago in Germany, they were sick and tired of the hunters. They wanted to get rid of the hunters. So, they did implement a very hard hunting examination. It was to give them what they call the neck shot, to kill the whole hunting business. What did they see? Instead of killing the whole hunting, there is a new revival of hunting like never before in Germany due to the very hard licensing. We must go for licensing, that is one, and we must go for licensing in the full quadrant,
Well,
not
that's the
in
point.
the only
Right.
positive.
Yes.
Of course, it is
Right,
the
because
full quadrant.
Right
Where
now,
you
I think if
responsible
they're going to
dog
push licensing now, from the way things are, the licensing is going to
Only
come
positive.
through a positive only thing, and that's why I
Of course.
push back against licensing. You know, if the licensing
Yeah.
was truly licensing, like, hey, this is this. Here's all four quadrants. This is, you must understand it, and then you get your thing. Now, however you
Well,
teach is up to you, right?
Robert,
That's freedom.
But on the negotiation tables, you say no against licensing. They say yes against licensing. They say only positive reinforcement. And then you say, well, licensing only if it's the full quadrant. That's
Yeah.
what we do on negotiation tables.
Right.
It's finding
Right.
the middle of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
road
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
make a little bit people right.
Of course,
So
of
it
course,
means
yeah.
that if everybody stands on the no, 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 you have no deal.
Oh, I agree.
And
I
you
agree.
need a deal. You need a deal. And the
Yeah.
deal is the full quadrant. And Michael and
Yeah.
I, we go further. Michael and I, we do full quadrant. And we give people the license in full quadrant. Are they the best dog trainers of the world? No. But give them
not.
time and they become
And they will
better
be.
and better
Yeah.
and better.
Yes.
It's
I
not
agree.
because you are a doctor as a study that you are immediately a good doctor.
Sure.
Some of them maybe are, but most of them not. And
Yeah.
Just
by-
because you got a driver's license doesn't mean
Doesn't
you're
mean
the
you
best
drive
driver.
it. Yeah, I
Not
agree.
at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it needs time.
Yes.
So we do believe that there must come a license, and that license must be the full quadrant.
Yeah,
and that's
I agree
why
with
we
that.
go our way rigorously, and we believe in parameters on tools because now comes by being in manufacturing, we see that the whole industry was based on all technology inventions were based on due to pressure of the market that wanted cheaper and cheaper and cheaper tools. What did do the most? Fabrics. They did produce cheaper and cheaper tools, but not better. There is
Right.
a moment where
In the last 20
Inotech.
years, yeah.
Inotech was years ago the first company that did bring innovation, Inotech. And then it was bought over by Radio System, and all the innovation stopped there immediately. So Inotech was the big innovator. Now, for the moment, we, Martin Systems, Michael and I, we are two dog trainers. You know, the first thing we did do was killing the anti-bark, killing the e-fence.
Those are the things we killed.
We knew that the lobbyists are pushing for that, and we say, no, we don't want it.
Yeah.
Because, in our opinion, the anti-bark will stop maybe the barking, but it will create another nervy behavior. That's what we do see. And the fence, for us, there is legal problems. You can train a normal dog to stay in the fence, but you cannot train the psychopath to not go in your fence,
Into the fence.
and kill your dog in a fight.
Right.
So it gives a very false idea of security. That's another thing. And we knew exactly what the politicians are going for, but Michael and I did kill it. Also for the reason that in our bark inhibitor, there is no contact measurement in which we do believe that the collar tells you have contact with the skin or not to prevent what we call the involuntary overstim. And our anti-bark from the old days had no SSC. So we killed all the products that had not the patents we do believe in for animal welfare.
Yeah.
And our colleagues at Martin Systems
were
were
crying.
mad at us and
Yeah,
crying.
they were very mad.
Michael, Bart, we're going to go bankrupt.
Yes.
You're say no. We're going to go rigorously this way, and we don't go for cheaper. We go invest in better and better and better.
Well, what a lot of e-collar companies do now when they make a new product is they change the shape or they change the color,
Yeah.
but the functionality is not much different.
And Robert, we don't pretend that we are without problems. Every brand has problems.
Sure, of
but
course.
we try to fix them as soon as possible. And as soon as possible is not fast in industrial process. What I did understand very much better with Michael and me being in the business is a little change on a PCB is a huge change in reality.
Sure.
You cannot believe. You cannot believe. So we know exactly that when we have a problem, and we are very lucky, we make small batches, 1,000 pieces, 1,000 pieces, 1,000 pieces.
Right.
If we have contamination, it is only on 1,000 pieces.
Sure.
And yes, we do have problems, but we face the problems and we try to make a good deal for the animal and for the owner.
Yeah.
What we smell immediately is that when people want to cheat on us, that we smell immediately.
Yeah.
Because there's also a bad tendency. We did see that due COVID, a lot of
That's my wife just got back. But I don't use bark collars, you can tell.
No, well,
Yeah.
you know that she's back. Now
Yeah.
they shut them out.
Yeah.
Well, that's the job of a dog, eh?
Yeah, of course. It's
But
natural.
they should not bark for 10 hours there. Eh? So
they
that
don't.
the dog
They're done.
barks.
Yeah.
But listen, this is a whole nother conversation. This whole idea of the collar, we should have another conversation about the technology and stuff like that. I wanted to get into that in this conversation. It just, again, like whenever we talk, the conversation
Do it next
goes.
time, no
Yeah.
problem.
But
We don't want to make
we
it
should
too
talk
long,
about
people
that.
fall asleep.
Yeah, people will fall asleep. But let's wrap it up on this, and let's get another time where we can talk about all the innovation. Which again, I was heading in that direction with this conversation when we first started, but it got so interesting about all the other stuff that I think it's a great chat. But yeah, let's do that because that's something to talk about. Is all these changes and why the contact measurement and all these things you have that I'm a big fan of in your collars are important. And again, people have ordered the collars through. I've become an affiliate of yours. I believe in your company. I believe in your product. I'm going to put a link to your website as well in the video description. So if people want to learn more about Bart and Michael, they can click on the link below. You guys are fascinating.
Don't do
people,
too
great
much
trainers, but-
advertising.
Yeah.
Please, we cannot follow.
No, but I mean,
you
people
have
should.
to understand, Robert, before we bought Martin System, we always,
We were the same people.
yeah, we were the same
Of
people
course,
and we
yeah.
still spoke highly of it. And it was the only collar that we used.
Yeah.
We believe in it. We're not
I know you do.
salespeople. We can only speak about it. It's like it shows on our face.
Yeah, of course.
So
I'm the same way. I've got so many offers
when-
from companies. I only talk about products that I believe in. And again,
Exactly.
you guys are the same
Yes.
way. You just happen to buy the company. I didn't buy it. So
Yeah,
It
it sounds
is.
it sounds fishy, but it's not.
no,
Believe
it's
me.
not.
So-
I totally understand. I wouldn't even mention the product if I didn't believe in it. I use it. My wife's got one, and I bought one for her. It's a good product. But let's set a time aside and really kind of break down why it is what it is. We'll do that in a future episode.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
What
So
goes on our nerves, and that's the last thing I should say, is that
Sure.
people like to use tools without knowledge of a tool and without
course.
knowledge of the system they are in. And that
Yeah.
must change.
Right.
And that's why
Education.
good
Yep.
professionals that teach the whole
Quadrants.
quadrant are very necessary. And
1,000%.
we're gonna reach millions of people like that over that free application.
Yeah.
You remember that little game Tamagotchi?
Yeah.
That's that little.
Yeah.
You have an idea how many pieces were sold worldwide? You have an
Millions? I don't know. Millions?
idea? 84 millions.
Wow.
We're gonna give that application for free, and we're gonna reach millions. And now politicians are gonna listen to the full quadrant story.
Because
love
we'll
it.
be in
Because-
the majority.
We are in the
Yeah.
majority, and we are not silent. And we
Good.
need soldiers that stand up and hold the lines. We
And-
don't
Yes.
need soldiers that go in the camp of the enemy
Right.
with a hidden
Yeah.
bandana.
And beat on and backstab the other
Yeah.
their partners. Yeah.
I agree.
But I do
agree.
want to say, Robert, we're sorry if we said anything that offended anybody.
No. It's it's in just normal conversation. The Holocaust thing
Yeah.
is something I always go. When people say this, people use terminology and stuff, and sometimes people don't know. I mean, I studied really into the Holocaust stuff, so people are sensitive to it for the right reasons. It is.
I understand.
When 6 million people die for no reason, it's one thing, but it's a totally I know you didn't mean it like that. I just wanted to make it known for all our friends, because we have a lot of friends in
Okay.
Israel and all over the world who love our work, and we want everybody to make sure that they know
yes,
we're very
yes.
sensitive to their emotions
Yes.
and their
Okay.
their lives. So that's
And the
I wanna
big
always put
danger
that on there.
about big danger about everything we said is the globalism, where
Yeah.
some people fight for the whole world. That's
Well,
a dangerous thing, and that's going
yeah.
on for the moment.
I agree,
We don't
but I
need
want to
that.
make sure our message should not get dissuaded because somebody says, "Oh, they said this, it wasn't said. It was not meant that way." And as long as it's clear, everybody can see it. So
Okay.
cool. Hey guys,
You email us, and we
Yeah.
will,
I will.
answer.
Okay.
And
well, I'm gonna call you. You call me all the time anyway. So I'd rather chat.
hey, thanks for this.
Bye.
This was
open
fun.
and
Yeah.
very
you,
direct
Robert.
conversation. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, we'll
Bye-bye.
talk soon.
Say hi to your wife. Thanks.
Bye.
I will. Okay, bye guys.